Welcome to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Trailstone Insurance Group, bringing you interviews with Colorado's best real estate and mortgage professionals, empowering you to understand the current trends in the housing market so you can make the American dream your reality. Enjoy today's episode.
It's a great day in Colorado, and welcome to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast. Today, we have with us Christine Richard, who's a loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage. Christine, welcome to the program.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So let's get started with getting to know you. What's your story and your background, and how did you get into the industry?
Oh, wow. So it's a funny story, and
we like
my
those.
background.
Yeah. Yep.
My background is basically in Department of Corrections and Division of Adult Parole. I did work I worked on death row for a couple of years. I moved over to Division of Adult Parole. I came to a point in my life where I was just ready to retire. And funny story is I met this group of guys, and the owner of Fairway not the owner of Fairway, but my manager of Fairway talked me into doing loans because he just said I can talk to anybody. So I went from cuffing people and putting them in jail to helping people get into homes.
That's not an obvious prerequisite to the mortgage industry. That's good. But if you can thrive under the most intense of circumstances, then you can definitely thrive with what the underwriter is coming back going. The loan could get approved only if these conditions are met. So you can pretty much handle many things, if not everything.
That's how I feel sometimes. It's like, are they on trial?
Right. Right. It's just give them a home loan. We're not trying to. Exactly.
Just a home loan. So
yes.
Yeah.
So since you had zero connections in the industry when you first started, what was the first way that you started to develop relationships to then build your business?
Honestly, I did have some friends that were already realtors, so I reached out to them for some advice, and then I just would cold call people and would get to know them, but I wouldn't try to say I want to be your loan originator, because how many loan originator calls do you get a day as a realtor? 50.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be your loan originator. I kind of came up with a script that I'm marketing myself and I'm trying to grow my business. And I'd like to see where maybe they were failing in the marketing place and how I can help out with that. And in the meantime, grow our business together.
So kind of like being a reporter, inquisitive, like, hey, how's things going for you? And what would you like to see? And just kind of seeing where some opportunities lay.
Right. Is it like, are you having any deficits right now? And what is that deficit? And I'd like to help with that and come together and market that. What does that look like for us to work together? And it worked out pretty good. And I'm really getting a lot of realtors coming in.
Yeah. Like if you could wave a magic wand, how would you like to see your business in this area? And then they're like, oh my word, well, it would be nice if, and then you're like, well, funny you should say that because that's what I can help you with. So that's a really good approach.
Yes.
So, Christine, I'm curious, you had a much different background being in the Department of Corrections and all. So I'm curious, how does that help you in this field? I mean, are there connections there?
I think what helped me is when I was in the Department of Corrections, I became a motivational interviewer, and I became an instructor and a coder and a coach for law enforcement and for parole officers to go out and learn how to communicate with the individuals that we were working with, as far as those committing felonies or those who are high on drugs. So teaching them how to communicate and not just automatically going to use of force, I really learned to hone in on my communication skills. So I think that's what helped me become so social. So when I met my manager, Peter, it was just like, oh, hey, I'm Christine. How are you? And I turned it into kind of, reflective listening and repeating what he said. And he was like, wow, you have some people skills. Well, that's what I taught for the Department of Corrections. I taught people skills. And how do we calm a person down that's very upset? What does that look like?
And so you became a master of it, obviously, in the Department of Corrections, and you get to continue it here. I always say to our agents here, why did God give you 2 ears and one mouth? You kind of alluded to that, that you got to be great at listening, but also understanding how to diffuse. So how does that, what are some of the most stressful conversations you have with your clients now that you can use that communication?
I recently had a client that called. She was just crying. They were being evicted from their current house. I listened to her. I calmed her down. We filled out the application together. I walked her through every step of it, and they close tomorrow.
Wow.
Congratulations.
So, and I
That's
think
awesome.
what I do when I'm meeting with somebody for the first time, I don't just talk to them about their loan. When I meet with a buyer for the first time or a realtor for the first time, I'm like, tell me your story. Who are you? What makes you tick? What makes you not tick? How am I going to best help you? I need to get to know that person.
Yes, for sure.
That is the start for relationships,
Yep.
not just give me a deal so we can all make some money. That this is building long-term relationships, learning how to please not only your real estate partner, but also the borrowers, and then ripple effect out. Because when you start gaining that reputation, it becomes so easy to earn introductions and referrals.
Yes, and I think that's what's happening as well is they'll send a client to me and the client's not quite ready and they're like, well, was the loan officer okay? And I'll have a realtor come back and say, my client loves you, so she's not ready to buy right now, but we will definitely be in touch.
Yes.
So,
whereas a lot of times, maybe in the industry, people hear that conversation and then they feel almost like the borrower is made to feel bad because you're not ready right now. And because it's like, wow, that loan officer needed that deal to come through. Well, no, when you can teach and learn, and you use the phrase teach, you are teaching people in the correctional facilities how to communicate. And so many times I would suspect that what seems to be a massive issue, like earth shattering, when you kind of can pause and go, hold up, let's just kind of look at all angles. It doesn't end up being as big as it is. And that can be in, a relationship with a real estate agent, with the borrower, with an underwriter, with the seller. It could be so many things that you can learn to diffuse just by investigating and chatting. So what a huge skill that is in the industry.
it is, and people, it's a great skill to have because so many people talk at people, not with people,
Yep.
and so many people listen to respond. They don't listen. It's you have to listen to what they're telling you and then take a minute to respond.
Yeah, almost like they're just waiting for that little break in the conversation to make their point, and it's like, but you didn't hear what I just said.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing we do offer at Fairway is credit repair, and it's free to all of our clients. So if somebody's upset about a credit report, it's like, don't worry, I have you. We're going to work together for the next 6 months, and I'm in this for the long haul. Let's work together for the next 6 months. Let's repair that. Let's repair that credit. It's not a done deal. Let's just get it repaired and get you in a home.
Nice. So what are the types of borrowers that you work with? Do they typically tend to be first-time home buyers?
I've worked with a lot of first-time home buyers. I've worked with a couple that have kind of sold what they had, so they're bringing to the table quite a bit of money, which is nice.
And then
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I do like to, I challenge myself, and because of my background, I do like to look at the first responders. So with Fairway, we have an American Frontline Reward System. With that frontline reward system, anybody that's a first responder, which would be military, law enforcement, Department of Corrections, dispatchers, firemen. It also includes teachers and nurses because they are first responders in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They automatically get $800 off their credit costs. Their closing costs.
Nice. That's it's like if you were to pick any of those categories you just mentioned and say, tell me industries that thank you for your service. It'd probably be a list that they could count on one hand and not even use 3 of their fingers.
Right. And so I want to be able to give back to the community and say, you're a teacher in my community, and I know your pay is not that great, but I'm going to give you $800 off your closing costs. And it may not be a lot, but it's something.
Yeah. So, and that also starts that word of mouth when you treat them right with respect and authenticity and a buck or two worth of, actual savings, or 800 in this case. But the word starts getting around to where this teacher talks to that teacher and that first responder talks to that first responder. So it becomes self-replicating in the relationship building sense. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen that. I've gotten a lot of calls and said, oh, you've helped with my friend, and he said you gave this discount. And you were wonderful and you were calming and you didn't feel like you were, he felt calm to just call you and ask you questions at any time. And so I've gotten referrals from just the buyers I've helped.
And, I've said this for so many years, sometimes the best marketing is a job well done. That
Yes.
wasn't a wonderful website and flyers and banners and emails and social media posts, which all those things are part of marketing. But sometimes being that great resource, treating people the right way, and getting the job handled and closed on time becomes so powerful. And all the other things just enhance that. But boy, that relationship for someone to call up and go, I've heard good things about you. Let's start our conversation. That's just a 5 gold stars by your name.
Yeah, what I like to think of it as is this is a relationship for me, and I want this relationship to go well. And this is a stressful time for anybody. Anybody who's bought a house, it's stressful. They want this document, they want that document. And then you thought you gave them the document, but now they need the document again. So I want to be that person that's calming and explain it and run it through them. And I try to make sure that they know everything in advance. And if I'm going to ask for documents twice, I explain to them I'm probably going to have to ask for documents twice. So it's building that relationship with them and knowing that I'm in this to win, I'm in this with them, and I'm in this to make their dream home come true.
So do you find that there are specific types of mortgage programs that you find is more helpful to your buyers? You mentioned the first responder program, but then within that, what about the specific mortgage program? Are they typically 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed, interest, adjustable rates? What are you seeing that people are being best served by these days?
I haven't done an adjustable rate in a long time. That just hasn't come around lately, but I've done the FHA 30-year fixed, a lot of conventional, a lot of VA. With Fairway, I was doing an open house a couple of weeks ago, and the basement was pretty much almost done. And with Fairway, we have a renovation loan. And so I was promoting that because I was letting them know that they can come in, they can buy this house, and we can do the renovation loan right into the loan. So it's not 2 loans, and they can have the basement done and come in with 1 mortgage.
All in the purchase?
All in the purchase price. It's all rolled in.
That's
it's
really
called a
unusual.
Renovation loan. It is unusual. Fairway's top in top 5 in the nation. So we have a lot of great programs out there.
And boy, if you're in the momentum of buying your house, you don't want to have to wait a period of time to then come back and maybe do the whole process over to get a little bit of money to then do home improvements. You want to be able to go, ooh, here's some things I need to have done. And you can do it all in the process of all the document gathering and approvals. And then I've got this little bit of money I can do my improvement. That's a big win.
Huge sell. I do a lot of open houses on weekends. Again, I just love talking to people, and it's only a couple hours out of my Saturday. But if I hear somebody talking about wanting to make changes, I'll immediately talk about the renovation loan because it's so easy, and it's the same mortgage.
Yep. What about investors? Do you find people that are looking to buy real estate for investment purposes?
I do run into those. I had one this weekend, actually. So he was in there, he was talking, and again, I talked about the renovation loan because he was talking about the back fence. Yep. What work needed to be done. So it was interesting conversation. We do have people come in looking for, is this house something I can put for, property management, have people rent it out?
Yeah. So when you're working with, whether it's a first-time buyer, investor, what are some of the things that you're noticing that people are not aware of, but then when you start working with them and then walk them through the solution, some of the mistakes that people tend to make that you can quickly come alongside and help finish up and succeed? Like you mentioned about some of the credit things, that's a big, trigger that, people can have as a concern, but you can come alongside them. What are some other examples that way?
Well, one other thing on the credit thing is everybody thinks a credit report that's your credit score. One thing I explain is what you see as a person out there going through Credit Karma, you're going to see one credit score. Car places that sell car salesmen, they see a different credit score. With mortgage, we see a completely different credit score, but that's because we're loaning you $500,000. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. So I need to explain that I might have a different credit score than what you're seeing because I've had some people come back and be upset about that.
So is the one that you see typically lower than what they would see if they pull their own, or like a car?
Typically lower. It's a little bit lower. And I see everything. I had a client come in and I gave him 32 pages of a credit report. And he's like, where did you get all of this information? And then he calmed down immediately and was like, okay, you're seeing a completely different number than I am. And I'm like, absolutely. That's why I wanted to talk to you in person.
Yeah.
So it's that. It's also knowing your budget. Like everybody says they want this house, but what is your house payment? What do you want your house payment to be? I don't want you to be house poor. I want you to enjoy this house, but I want you to enjoy life too. So I walk people through that because they don't even think about what is the house payment, HOA fees. The HOA fees aren't included in the house payment. So if you have a $1,600 house payment, you have $159 HOA fee, you're now at $1,800.
Yep.
The HOA fee is not wrapped in there. So people need to understand that piece. So I really walk people through everything that is going to happen so there's no surprises.
That's a big piece of educational enlightenment because, yes, that one sliver is here's your principal, interest, taxes, insurance. But HOA, like you mentioned, another thing that I would think is if you're coming from an apartment, small condo, going to a bigger house, you're going to have some bigger, electric bills, your utilities. And that's not a house payment, but that's extra money that's going out because of where you're now living. And so all of those things could put a constraint on someone in month 2 or 3 or 4 once, things start settling in. And then when you're preparing someone for that, it might be still fine. Okay, yeah, we can afford it. That's fine. But it's good to know.
Right. It's good to know. Go do your research. Go see how much were utilities for this property. What did that look like? Can you afford that?
Yes. So what are some of the, when people are now looking for houses, if it's like a first time home buyer, what is in the area that we're talking in here in Colorado that you're working in? Are they looking for typically single family residence, or some people looking for like a duplex, live in one side, rent the other? But what are the types of properties that you're seeing people needing loans for?
I have both. I have single family residence and I have the duplex. I have a young kid. I mean, I just love this kid. He's 19 and he wants to buy a duplex and rent out the other. I mean, what 19-year-old does this? And I keep having to tell my managers, they're like, well, what did he do last year? Because he didn't make that much money. I was like, he was 18 and in high school.
Yeah.
Like, I will explain this to underwriting. So you get the gamut, but he's gung-ho. So I get the gamut. You get the single family homes, you get the investment homes that they want to rent out, and then you get the place where they want to, do the duplex and rent out the other side. With the duplexes, you have to keep in mind, and I had to explain this to him, is you might not collect rent from that person, or it might be empty. Yeah. So I need to know that you can afford the entire duplex. I can't sit here and say you're always going to have somebody in there that's going to pay on time, or you might have to go through the eviction process. It's a great philosophy, but you need to be able to afford the whole building, not just half the building.
Now, you need to think of that, like you said, but does the underwriter allow for some portion of the rent on the other side to be counted for his income? Like in this case, he probably doesn't make a huge amount of money. So is that used that way? And then still the speech about you need to, count on what if your tenant moves out, you got to be able to draw on some kind of reserve. Absolutely.
We would put that in as income. So, but not a large portion as income. You still have to, underwriting is still going to say the what if these guys decide not to pay their rent? How is this going to get paid?
Yeah.
So we will.
Then you start getting into almost like your counseling hat, where it's like, look, what if your best friend buddy, moves into the other side and you're just having the time of your life, and then they start going flaky, you start talking real, conversations about you got to pay or you got to get out, and they're your friends. I mean, maybe possibly should you just consider renting to someone that's not friend, or, so there's all those kind of things, but it sounds like you really lay it out for people so that they're considering things that aren't just the numbers and the dollars.
Exactly. Not just and here's what I tell people: you marry the house, you date the rate.
So yeah, right.
With the rates right now, rates aren't great, but you know what? You're dating the rate. And I hate to say this, but we're not going to date the 3% anymore. That's far from coming. We love the 3% rate. it's going to be a while till that comes back. So don't wait for the 3% to come back. Date the 6% right now.
Yeah. And then as things adjust and move down the road, you assess every few years, and maybe here's a crazy concept. Maybe your clients should come back to meet with you once a year and go, take a look. Are we in the best spot? Is there any opportunities? And then you're able to give them an idea about, oh, it looks like the house values have gone up. Do you need home improvement? Or looks like the rates have. So yeah, I love that analogy. Date the rate, but marry the house, because that's the permanent thing. Rates can fluctuate. You make the best decision for what you need right now. And that's why you said previously, so many of your loans are those fixed rate, because I think people have come through years past where there was craziness and volatility, and that fixed rate, you know what to expect.
You do. Yeah, exactly. And I stay in touch with my my clients that have already closed on loans. I send birthday cards, I send pop-ups, I send Christmas cards, I check in with them. If I see rates have come down, I immediately call them, let them know rates are down. Let me know if you want to refi. So, because they're busy. They're not looking at that stuff all the time. So I make sure I take accountability for that and reach back out to them.
Excellent. Well, Christine, it's been so great chatting with you here. Just love how you are using your skills in communication to serve your clients now. So with that thought in mind, what's the best way someone can connect with you and reach out and learn more about how you can help them with their mortgage needs?
Oh, you can just call me directly. I have my phone on. I do like to wind down around 8 o'clock at night. So usually between 7 and 8, I'll take phone calls. My number is 719-240-0340. Just shoot me a text or a phone call and I will get back to you.
Excellent. Well, Christine, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Trailstone Insurance Group. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.coloradorealestateleaders.com.